Do you know what it feels like to be called a thief by the very person you gave your whole life to? When your own flesh and blood decides that humiliating you in front of everyone will somehow make her special day more memorable. There is a particular kind of pain that comes with betrayal. It does not just break your heart. It rewrites your entire history. Everything you thought was true suddenly is not. If you stay until the end of this story, you will understand why some wounds never heal, why some actions can never be forgiven, and why justice sometimes requires a mother's firm hand. This is not about revenge. It is about consequences. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and comment where you are watching from. Some of you might recognize yourselves in this story, and others might recognize people you know. Either way, I hope it makes you think twice about the marks we leave on the people who love us most. My name is Grace Mercer, and at 58 years old I thought I had seen it all. 2 marriages, 1 successful business, 3 children, and enough life experience to fill several memoirs. I have spent my entire adult life being the sturdy branch that everyone else swings from. Reliable, present, and unbreakable. At least that is what I thought. The morning of my daughter Kimberly's wedding dawned bright and clear. The kind of perfect October day that costs extra in the wedding packages. Pale sunlight filtered through the gauzy curtains of the bridal suite at the Rosewood Hotel in Napa Valley, illuminating the chaos of pre-wedding preparations. Designer dresses in blush pink hung like ghosts from every available hook, while makeup cases splayed open on every surface revealed their colorful insides. "Mom, can you help me with this?" Kimberly's voice carried an edge I had become increasingly familiar with over the past year. The wedding planning had transformed my once sweet daughter into someone I barely recognized. Demanding, critical, obsessed with appearances. I blamed it on stress, on her fiancé Jason's wealthy family and their expectations, on the pressure young women face today. I made excuses because that is what mothers do. I crossed the room to where she sat at the vanity. Her reflection fractured across 3 mirrors. 32, Kimberly was stunning. All my genetics, but with her father's height and commanding presence. Her dark hair was already styled in an elaborate updo, tendrils framing a face that had graced several regional magazine covers during her brief modeling career before law school. "The clasp on this necklace is impossible," she complained, holding up the diamond pendant that had been a gift from Jason's mother. "And Brittany is useless. She has been in the bathroom for 20 minutes. I took the necklace from her hands, our fingers brushing briefly without warmth. "It is her first time being a maid of honor. Give her a break." Kimberly's eyes met mine in the mirror. "I did not ask for commentary, Mom. Just fix the necklace." I swallowed the reply that rose to my lips and focused on the delicate platinum clasp. This was not the day for confrontations. I had spent $22,000 on this wedding, money from my retirement fund that I had not told her about. Because her father, my ex-husband Richard, had conveniently faced cash flow issues when the time came to contribute. The same Richard who would be walking her down the aisle in his custom Tom Ford suit, looking every bit the successful investment banker who had traded me in for his executive assistant 15 years ago. "There," I said, securing the necklace. "Beautiful." Kimberly did not thank me. Instead, she opened a velvet box on the vanity, revealing a pair of sapphire earrings that took my breath away. "Jason's grandmother loaned these to me. They are worth more than your house." The casual cruelty of the comparison was not lost on me. My modest 3-bedroom in Oakland, the home where I had raised all 3 children after Richard left, had become a point of apparent shame for Kimberly since she had moved into Jason's Pacific Heights condo. My son Michael still lived with me while finishing graduate school, and my youngest Emma had only moved out last year. "Something borrowed and something blue in one," I commented, keeping my voice light. "They are exquisite." The suite door burst open as Emma entered, already dressed in her bridesmaid gown, phone in hand as always. At 25, she was Kimberly's physical opposite. Petite, blonde like me, with a permanent look of distraction that came from dividing her attention between real life and her social media empire. "Mom, you are not dressed yet." Emma looked me up and down, taking in my silk robe with visible disappointment. "The photographer wants family shots in 40 minutes. "I know the schedule, Emma." I had, after all, coordinated most of the day while Kimberly focused on creative direction, whatever that meant. "I will be ready. She has been helping me," Kimberly said. A rare moment of defense that warmed me until she added, "Though God knows why we did not just hire a professional stylist like I wanted." Another $1,200 I had saved her by offering to do her hair and makeup myself. 20 years of running my own small but successful beauty boutique had not qualified me as professional enough, apparently. I excused myself to the adjoining room, where my mother of the bride dress, a silvery blue column that had cost more than my first car, waited. As I dressed, I could hear Kimberly and Emma's voices rising and falling, discussing people I did not know and parties I had not been invited to. The familiar ache of exclusion settled in my chest. Richard had taken them to Aspen last Christmas while I worked through the holiday rush at the boutique. His new wife Clara, younger than me by 15 years and eager to play stepmother, had posted dozens of pictures of their blended family celebrations. Kimberly and Emma smiling with Clara and Richard, Michael reluctantly included but clearly uncomfortable. My girls had returned with designer ski clothes and stories they shared with each other but not with me. I finished applying my makeup, subtle, elegant, age-appropriate, and stepped back into the main suite to find Brittany had emerged from the bathroom. The other bridesmaids had arrived as well, all 6 of them chattering excitedly while a photographer captured candid shots. I moved to the periphery, watching my daughter in her element, surrounded by friends who adored her. Whatever tensions existed between us, I could not deny the pride that swelled in my chest. She was magnificent. Mrs. Mercer, a hotel staff member, appeared at my elbow. "The groom's mother is asking for the bride. I will handle Laura," I said, grateful for a purpose. "Kimberly needs to finish getting ready." Laura Williams waited in the hotel corridor, immaculate in a custom Chanel suit, not a silver hair out of place. At 62, she looked 50, the result of disciplined self-care and unlimited resources. Her husband's technology firm had gone public when Jason was in college, catapulting the family into the kind of wealth that made my comfortable upper-middle-class success look like poverty. Grace, her smile was practiced. "How is our bride?" Our bride, as if Kimberly belonged equally to both of us now. "She is wonderful, almost ready." I matched her tone, pleasant and neutral. The earrings were a lovely surprise. Mother Williams was pleased to loan them. They have been worn by brides in our family for 4 generations. She placed subtle emphasis on our family, the circle I would never truly enter despite my biological connection to the bride. "I hope Kimberly has them secured." "They are insured, of course, but they are irreplaceable." I watched her put them in myself, I assured her, though I had not. "They are stunning on her." Laura nodded, apparently satisfied. William sent me to check on timing. "The string quartet is set up and guests are arriving." "We are on schedule," I said, feeling absurdly like I should salute. 20 more minutes. After she glided away, I returned to the suite to find a flurry of last-minute adjustments. The photographer directed Kimberly into position near the window, where golden light created a halo around her. As her assistant arranged the train of her gown, a handmade Vera Wang that had required 3 fittings in New York City. "Mom," Kimberly called, her voice suddenly girlish and vulnerable in a way that transported me back through time. "How do I look?" For a moment she was 5 years old again, twirling in the princess costume I had sewn for Halloween. She was 16, nervous before her first real date. She was 22, graduating college, looking to me for approval and reassurance. "Like a dream," I said, my voice catching. "Absolutely perfect." Something softened in her expression. Gratitude, love, recognition of all we had shared before the professional mask slipped back into place. "Now please go check on Dad and make sure he is not drinking too much before the ceremony. You know how he gets." And just like that I was dismissed, relegated to handler of her father, the man who had left both of us. I did as I was told, because that is what mothers do on their daughters' wedding days. We swallow our pride. We manage the background. We make magic happen without being seen. I found Richard at the hotel bar, predictably, but he was nursing a seltzer water rather than his usual scotch. He had aged well, damn him, silver threading through his dark hair in a distinguished way that had only enhanced his appeal to women. He stood when he saw me approach, a reflexive gesture from his Boston upbringing. "Grace," he said, genuine warmth in his voice. Time and his substantial alimony payments had softened the edges of our failed marriage. "You look lovely." "Thank you." I sat beside him, ordering a sparkling water for myself. Nervous about the walk down the aisle. "Terrified," he admitted with a self-deprecating smile. "I will probably trip and take her down with me." "How is she?" "Beautiful, ready, imperious." He laughed. "Wonder where she gets that from." "Her father," I said without hesitation. He conceded with a tilt of his head. "Fair enough." He hesitated, then added, "I know this day has not been easy for you. Kimberly can be demanding." "She is under pressure," I said automatically, the defense mechanism of a mother. "She is spoiled," Richard corrected gently. "And I take my share of the blame for that. But you have done most of the work for this wedding, and I doubt she has thanked you properly." I was saved from responding by the arrival of Michael, handsome in his groomsman's tuxedo. His girlfriend Lucia beside him. My son, thoughtful, sensitive, the peacemaker of the family, kissed my cheek. "Mom, they are asking for you upstairs. Something about the veil." "Understood." Duty calling once again. "Duty calls. Do not be late, Richard." As I walked away, I heard my son say, "Be nice to Mom today, Dad. She is doing her best." My sweet defender. At least one of my children still saw me. Little did I know that in less than 2 hours, everything would change. That the careful peace I had maintained, the dignity I had clung to, the love I had given without expectation of return, all of it was about to be shattered in front of 300 wedding guests. And nothing would ever be the same again. The ceremony passed in a blur of white tulle and practiced smiles. I sat in the front row, alone in the crowd, watching Richard walk our daughter down the aisle. Kimberly was breathtaking, of course. I had expected nothing less. What mother does not imagine this moment from the time her daughter is small? What I had not imagined was the hollow feeling in my chest as I watched from the sidelines, already forgotten. The vows were exchanged beneath a flower arch that had cost more than my first car. When they were pronounced husband and wife, I clapped until my palms stung, determined to be the supportive mother even as I felt myself fading into the background of my daughter's narrative. At the cocktail reception, I navigated the crowd with practiced ease, accepting congratulations and deflecting pitying glances. Richard's new wife Clara was holding court near the string quartet. 15 years younger and worlds more magnetic than I had ever been. She caught my eye and raised her champagne flute in what felt like a victor's salute. I smiled tightly and turned away. "You are handling this with remarkable grace," said a deep voice beside me. I turned to find William Williams, Jason's father, offering me a fresh glass of champagne. Unlike his wife Laura, who moved through the room with the calculated precision of a chess master, William had a genuine warmth about him. 15 years of practice, I replied, accepting the drink. "Co-parenting teaches you to develop a thick skin." "Still," he said, eyes crinkling at the corners. Not many could watch their ex parade around with his replacement so publicly. I shrugged, aiming for nonchalance. "Water under the bridge." William studied me with unexpected perception. "Jason admires you, you know. Says you are the backbone of the family. The one who holds everything together while others take the credit." The observation caught me off guard. I had spent so long being invisible that recognition felt almost uncomfortable. Before I could respond, the wedding planner was ushering guests toward the reception hall, and William was whisked away by his wife. Inside, the tables gleamed with crystal and silver under cascading orchid centerpieces. I found myself seated at the family table, positioned between Michael and Emma, with Richard and Clara directly across from me. The bridal couple sat at a sweetheart table in the center of the room, spotlit like royalty. Dinner passed in a haze of exquisite food I barely tasted and conversation that flowed around rather than through me. Emma spent most of the meal on her phone, documenting every moment for her followers. Michael and his girlfriend Lucia spoke quietly with William about some tech innovation. Richard told stories that made Clara laugh too loudly, her hand possessively on his arm. The sapphire earrings were a perfect touch, Laura commented as dessert was served. They complement Kimberly's coloring beautifully. They are stunning, I agreed, forcing warmth into my voice. Very generous of your mother to loan such heirlooms. Laura's smile tightened. Mother Williams does not loan them lightly. They have never left the family before. The implication was clear. My daughter was now their family. I bit back a response as the DJ announced it was time for speeches. Richard rose first, champagne in hand, and delivered a charming tribute to Kimberly that had guests dabbing at their eyes. He even acknowledged me gracefully, noting that Kimberly's strength and intelligence came from her mother. It was a generous gesture from a man who had spent years diminishing my contributions. Then it was my turn. I had practiced my speech for weeks, determined to strike the right balance between sentiment and brevity. As I spoke about Kimberly's determination from childhood, her passionate pursuit of her goals, my pride in the woman she had become, I saw something shift in her expression. For a moment, the brittle socialite facade fell away, and I glimpsed my actual daughter. The girl who once sat on my lap for hours while I read to her. Who cried on my shoulder over her first heartbreak. To Kimberly and Jason I concluded, raising my glass. May your partnership bring you joy, growth, and the comfort of true companionship. I love you both. The room applauded, and Kimberly mouthed thank you from across the room. It was a perfect moment, one I would cling to in the dark days ahead. After dinner came dancing. Richard and Kimberly moved elegantly across the floor to The Way You Look Tonight, another knife twist reminder that he had been the fun parent. The one who taught her to dance while I managed homework and dentist appointments. I watched from the sidelines, smiling through the ache. May I? Michael appeared at my elbow, hand extended. My son, always the one who saw me. Are you not supposed to dance with the maid of honor? I asked as he led me to the floor. Already did my duty, he said with a grin. Now I want to dance with the most beautiful woman here. We moved in comfortable silence for a moment before he spoke again. His voice lower. I know Kimberly has not been easy through all this, but she does appreciate you in her way. Her way is becoming increasingly hard to translate, I admitted. She is trying to fit into Jason's world, Michael said gently. It does not excuse how she treats you, but I think she is scared of not measuring up. When the song ended, I excused myself, needing a moment of quiet. The hallway outside the reception was blissfully empty, the music muted behind heavy doors. I took a deep breath, centering myself. Mrs. Mercer, a hotel staff member, approached, looking concerned. Ms. Williams is asking for you urgently in the bridal suite. I followed him up the grand staircase to the suite where we had prepared earlier. The door was ajar and I could hear raised voices inside. I pushed it open to find Kimberly, Laura, and the wedding planner in what appeared to be an intense discussion. Mom, finally, Kimberly said. Her face flushed with either anger or champagne. Maybe you can explain this. Explain what? I looked between the women, confused. Laura's voice was ice. The sapphire earrings. They are missing. Missing. Echoed. But you were wearing them during the ceremony. I took them off before the reception. Kimberly cut in. The posts were hurting my ears. Put them right here. She pointed to the vanity, her finger jabbing accusingly at the empty surface. And now they are gone. Perhaps they were moved during cleanup, I suggested. The wedding planner shook her head. We have not touched anything in here since before the ceremony. Well, who has been in this room? I asked, trying to be practical. That is what we are trying to determine, Laura said, her gaze narrowing. The hotel is checking their keycard logs. Something in her tone made my skin prickle. Surely you do not think. You were up here right before the ceremony, Kimberly interrupted. You came to fix my veil. I stared at my daughter in disbelief. Kimberly, what are you suggesting? But I knew. God help me, I already knew what was coming. You have always been jealous, she said, her voice rising. Jealous of Dad's success. Jealous of my relationship with Jason's family. That is not true, I protested. But she was building momentum. And now these irreplaceable family heirlooms are missing. And you are the only one who was alone in this room. The accusation hung in the air, monstrous and absurd. I looked from Kimberly's angry face to Laura's cold suspicion to the wedding planner's uncomfortable avoidance. You think I stole the earrings? I finally managed, my voice barely above a whisper. Your own mother. I do not know what to think, Kimberly said, but her tone made it clear she had already decided. They were here and now they are gone. And you are always talking about your retirement fund and how much this wedding cost you. 'Cause you asked me to pay for it. The words burst out before I could stop them. See, there it is. The martyr act. Kimberly's face contorted with fury. Everything is about money with you. Mrs. Mercer, Laura interjected smoothly. Perhaps you could empty your evening bag. Just to put everyone's mind at ease. I stared at Laura Williams in disbelief. You want me to empty my bag? Like a common thief? It would clear things up quickly, she replied. Her voice reasonable while her eyes remained cold. If you have nothing to hide. The implication hung in the air between us. I looked at my daughter, waiting for her to defend me, to laugh off this absurd suggestion. But Kimberly's face was set in stubborn lines I knew all too well. The same expression she had worn as a teenager when convinced she was right despite all evidence to the contrary. Fine. I snapped open my evening clutch, a simple silver piece I had owned for years. See for yourself. I appended the contents onto the nearest surface. Lipstick, compact, phone, room key, a few tissues and a $20 bill. Satisfied. Laura examined the items with surgical precision. Your other bag, perhaps. The one you had earlier. I only brought this one to the reception, I said, feeling a flush creep up my neck. But you had a larger bag this morning, Kimberly insisted. The blue one. Which is locked in my hotel room, I replied through gritted teeth, along with the rest of my belongings. Then you will not mind if we check your room, Kimberly said, as if this were a perfectly normal request from a daughter to her mother. Something inside me snapped. Actually, I do mind. This is outrageous, Kimberly. I am your mother, not some stranger off the street you can accuse of theft. Mom, no one is accusing. Aren't you? Cut her off. Is not that exactly what is happening here? You have lost some earrings, and immediately your mind goes to my mother must have stolen them. The wedding planner shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps I should give you some privacy. No, stay, Kimberly commanded. We might need a witness. A witness. As if we were in a police procedural rather than what should have been the happiest day of her life. The word choice revealed everything about how she saw me in that moment. Not as her mother, but as a suspect. This is absurd, I said, gathering my dignity around me like armor. I am going back to the reception. When you are ready to apologize for this insulting behavior, you know where to find me. I turned to leave, but Kimberly stepped between me and the door. You are not going anywhere until we resolve this. Those earrings are worth over $100,000, Mom. The dollar amount hung in the air. A measure of how little she thought of me. Of how easily she believed I could be tempted by material value over maternal love. Move aside, Kimberly, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Not until. The door opened then, and Emma walked in, still glued to her phone. There you all are. Jason's looking everywhere for. She stopped, finally sensing the tension. What is going on? Your mother refuses to let us check her room for Grandmother Williams's earrings, Kimberly explained, as if this were a perfectly reasonable request. Emma's eyes widened. The sapphires. They are missing. She looked at me with dawning horror. Mom, you did not. That was the moment I truly understood. It was not just Kimberly. Both my daughters believed me capable of this. Both of them, whom I had raised, bathed, nursed through illnesses, and supported through every struggle and triumph of their lives, thought their mother was a thief. I see, I said quietly. The pain was so acute it circled back around to a strange numbing clarity. Move aside, Kimberly. I am leaving. If you walk out now, it only makes you look guilty, she shot back. I laughed then. A sound so hollow it barely resembled human emotion. Guilty in whose eyes? Worse. You have already convicted me without evidence, without even the courtesy of doubt. Mrs. Mercer, Laura began, but I cut her off with a raised hand. Well, have heard enough. I straightened my spine, looked my daughter directly in the eyes. I did not take the earrings. I would never take anything from you, Kimberly. But you have taken something from me today that cannot be replaced. I moved toward the door again, and this time Kimberly did not block me. But her words followed me like daggers. If you leave now, do not bother coming back. You are not family anymore. I stopped with my hand on the doorknob, turned back one last time. Family does not do this to each other, Kimberly. Remember that when you find those earrings. I walked out, head high, back straight, moving on autopilot through the carpeted hallway, down the grand staircase. The reception was still in full swing. The dance floor crowded with laughing guests, unaware of the drama unfolding upstairs. The band played something upbeat and mindless. Champagne flowed. Life continued. I moved through the crowd like a ghost, unseeing and unseen. Or so I thought. Until a hand caught my elbow. Race. Richard's voice. What is wrong? You look like you have seen a ghost. I met my ex-husband's concerned gaze. For a moment I considered telling him everything, letting him handle the daughters he had always been more skilled at managing. But no. This was between them and me now. Nothing is wrong, I said, easing my arm from his grip. Have a headache. I'm going to my room. But they have not cut the cake yet, he protested. Kimberly will be disappointed if you miss it. I think Kimberly will survive my absence just fine, I replied, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. Good night, Richard. I slipped away before he could question me further. Through the hotel lobby, into the elevator. Inside my room, I kicked off my painful heels and sat on the edge of the bed, too numb even for tears. The woman in the mirror opposite looked like a stranger. Elegantly dressed, makeup perfect, eyes empty. A soft knock at the door roused me from my trance. Hope fluttered briefly. Perhaps Kimberly had come to her senses, come to apologize. But it was Michael who stood in the hallway, concern etched across his features. Mom, what happened? Dad said you looked upset. I hesitated for only a moment before stepping aside to let him in. If anyone deserved the truth, it was my son, who had always seen me clearly. Kimberly accused me of stealing the sapphire earrings, I said without preamble. Michael's face went slack with shock. That is insane. Apparently not to your sisters. Emma all but agreed with her. He sank onto the chair by the window, running a hand through his hair. They cannot seriously think. They do. I sat opposite him on the bed. Laura Williams suggested I empty my purse. Kimberly wanted to search my room. Jesus Christ, Michael muttered. What is wrong with them? Where are the earrings now? Still missing apparently, I said. But I am now persona non grata at the wedding. Kimberly's exact words were, you are not family anymore. Michael flinched as if I had struck him. She did not mean that. She is drunk and stressed. She meant it. I was surprised by how calm I felt now. And do you know what? For the first time in 32 years, I am not going to smooth things over. I am not going to make excuses for her behavior. I am done. No, Michael, listen to me. I reached for his hand. I have spent my entire adult life being what everyone else needed me to be. The supportive ex-wife. The understanding mother. The background character in my own life story. Today, my daughter accused me of being a thief and a liar in front of people who already looked down on me. There is no coming back from that. There has to be, he argued. But I could see the doubt in his eyes. She will find the earrings and apologize. And if she does, I will accept her apology. But things will never be the same. I squeezed his hand. You should go back to the reception. Lucia will be wondering where you are. I'm not leaving you alone like this. I'm fine, Michael, really. I summoned a smile. I'm going to take a hot bath, order room service, and go to bed early. Tomorrow is a new day. He hesitated, clearly torn between loyalty to me and obligation to his sister. Promise you will call if you need me. Promise. I walked him to the door. Love you. You know I am proud of the man you have become. After he left, I did exactly as I had said. Ran a bath. Ordered a club sandwich and a pot of tea. Changed into pajamas. I was not going to run away in the night like some disgraced character in a Victorian novel. I would face whatever came next with dignity. As I slipped between the cool sheets, my phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Love you. This will all be sorted out tomorrow. I turned off my phone without replying and set it face down on the nightstand. Tomorrow would take care of itself. Tonight, I needed to mourn the death of something I had not known was so fragile. My daughter's trust. My place in the family I had created. The illusion that love could transcend all wounds. Sleep did not come easily, but when it did, it was dreamless and deep. The kind of sleep that follows profound emotional exhaustion. When I woke the next morning, something had changed inside me. Where there had been pain, there was now a cool, detached clarity. Where there had been hurt, there was now resolve. I had been broken, but I would remake myself into something stronger. And I would never allow my children to wound me that way again. I was in the shower when my phone began ringing incessantly. I ignored it. Whatever crisis had erupted at the post-wedding brunch, to which I had not been invited, was no longer my concern. I took my time, letting the hot water wash away the remnants of yesterday's makeup, yesterday's tears, yesterday's identity. When I finally checked my phone, I had 17 missed calls and twice as many texts. From Michael. From Richard. From Emma. Notably, none from Kimberly. I read Michael's most recent message. Mom, call me ASAP. The earrings were found. You need to hear this. I set the phone down without replying and dressed methodically. In black slacks and a crisp white blouse. My armor for the confrontation I knew was coming. I ordered coffee from room service and sat by the window, watching the morning light play across the vineyards while I waited. The knock, when it came, was hesitant. I opened the door to find Michael and Emma standing in the hallway. Emma's eyes were red-rimmed, her face blotchy with tears. Michael looked grim. May we come in? He asked formally, as if I were a stranger. I stepped aside without a word. They entered. Emma hovering uncertainly while Michael took a seat in the armchair. The earrings were in Laura's purse, he said without preamble. One of the hotel staff found them this morning when they were clearing the bridal suite. Missy. My voice was neutral, betraying none of the vindication surging through me. Mom, I am so sorry, Emma blurted, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. I should never have thought. Should never have said. I raised a hand, silencing her. What exactly happened? Michael answered when it became clear Emma could not continue. Apparently Laura asked to see the earrings before the ceremony. She put them in her evening bag for safekeeping, and then forgot about it when she switched purses for the reception. And the accusation against me. Kimberly is mortified, Emma said quickly. We all are. It was a terrible misunderstanding. A misunderstanding, I repeated, tasting the inadequacy of the word. Is that what we are calling it? Mom, please. Emma took a step toward me, hands outstretched. Kimberly was stressed and had too much champagne. She was not thinking clearly. She was thinking exactly what she has always thought of me. I corrected her. That I am small. That I am envious. That I am less than. The champagne did not create those thoughts, Emma. It only removed her filter. That is not fair, Emma protested weakly. Is it not? I finally met her gaze directly. You believed it too. Without hesitation. You looked at me and saw a thief. Your own mother. Emma flinched as if I had slapped her. I was confused. Everything happened so fast. I did not raise my voice, but the word cut through her excuses like a blade. I do not want explanations. I want you both to listen carefully to what I am about to say. I waited until I had their full attention before continuing. Yesterday, I was humiliated by my own daughters. Accused of theft. Asked to empty my purse like a shoplifter. Told I was no longer family. My voice remained steady. Controlled. Those words and actions cannot be unsaid or undone. They revealed the truth about how I am seen in this family. And I will not pretend otherwise to spare your feelings. Mom, Michael began. But I shook my head. I raised you to take responsibility for your choices. All of you. Kimberly chose to accuse me publicly rather than giving me the benefit of the doubt. You, Emma, chose to believe her without question. Those choices have consequences. What consequences? Emma asked, her voice small. I'm checking out of the hotel today. I will not be attending the brunch. When Kimberly returns from her honeymoon, she can contact me if she wishes. But I will not be reaching out to her. You cannot just cut us off, Emma protested. I am not cutting anyone off, I corrected her. I am establishing boundaries. Something I should have done years ago. Kimberly wants to apologize in person, Michael said quietly. She is waiting downstairs. Course she is. I could not keep the bitterness from my voice. Now that there is video evidence proving my innocence, she is ready to make amends. Video evidence, Emma repeated, confused. Michael nodded grimly. The hotel has security cameras in the corridors. They reviewed the footage this morning when the earrings were found. It shows Laura entering the bridal suite alone before the reception. A cold realization washed over me. And if that footage had not existed? If it had just been my word against the circumstantial evidence? Neither of my children answered. But their silence was answer enough. Tell Kimberly I am not ready to see her, I said finally. Perhaps in a few weeks, after I have had time to process everything. Mom, please, Emma begged. She is devastated. We all are. I'm sure you are, I agreed, not unkindly. But your feelings do not erase mine. I need time. They left reluctantly. Emma still tearful. Michael conflicted. I closed the door behind them and leaned against it, exhaling slowly. The vindication I had expected to feel was hollow, overshadowed by grief for what had been irrevocably lost. I packed methodically, leaving nothing behind. As I zipped my suitcase, my phone rang again. Kimberly's name flashed on the screen. I watched it ring until voicemail picked up. Then listened to the message she left. Mom, it is me. I'm so sorry. I was wrong. So terribly wrong. Please come down so we can talk. I need to explain. To apologize in person. Mom, please. Love you. Her voice cracked on the last words. And for a moment, I felt my resolve waver. Then I remembered her face as she had said those fatal words. You're not family anymore. I deleted the message without replying. In the lobby, I kept my eyes forward, ignoring the clusters of wedding guests enjoying their coffee. The girl at the front desk processed my checkout efficiently, showing no sign of recognition or awareness of yesterday's drama. Did you enjoy your stay, Mrs. Mercer? She asked, the standard customer service question. It was illuminating, I replied with a thin smile. Outside, my Uber was waiting. As I loaded my suitcase into the trunk, I caught sight of Kimberly hurrying across the lobby toward the entrance. Her face tear-stained and desperate. Our eyes met through the glass doors. She raised a hand in pleading. I turned away, got into the car, and gave the driver my address. As we pulled away from the Rosewood Hotel, I did not look back. The life I had known was over. The one I would build in its place would be entirely of my own making. And this time, there would be no room for those who could wound me so carelessly, so completely, whether they shared my blood or not. In my purse, my phone continued to buzz with messages I would not read, calls I would not answer. Not today. Today was for silence, for clarity, for the painful birth of something new from the ashes of what had been destroyed. Tomorrow would be soon enough to begin plotting my response. 6 months after the wedding, on a crisp spring morning, I stood before the mirror in my bedroom, examining the woman I had become. My hair, which had been carefully colored for decades, now showed its natural silver. A striking frame for features that had sharpened with resolve. Had lost weight. Not from grief but from purpose. 3-mile runs each morning. Strength training 3 times a week. My body was becoming an instrument of my will, rather than a vessel of service to others. The doorbell rang precisely at 9. Michael, punctual as always. I opened the door to find my son looking tired but resolute. They are all here, he said without preamble. Just like you asked. I nodded, retrieving my coat and purse. Thank you for arranging this. He hesitated. Are you sure about this? Once it is done. I have never been more certain of anything in my life. The drive to Richard's house in Pacific Heights was silent. Michael had been the only one I had maintained contact with over the months, and even that relationship had been redefined by clear boundaries. He had respected my silence. My refusal to discuss his sisters beyond the necessary logistics of today's meeting. Did you tell them why I wanted to see them? I asked as we parked. Just that you had important news that affected everyone, he replied. Nothing more. Richard's home, the showcase he had built with Clara after leaving me, loomed before us. All glass and steel and conspicuous prosperity. How fitting that the final act would play out here, in the temple to materialism that had always symbolized what I had failed to be, to provide, to become. They were gathered in the living room. Richard and Clara on one sofa. Emma perched anxiously on an ottoman. Kimberly and Jason standing by the fireplace. Their conversation ceased abruptly when I entered. 6 months of ignored calls, returned letters, and rebuffed attempts at reconciliation had led to this moment. Grace. Richard rose, uncertain whether to embrace me. I solved his dilemma by extending my hand for a businesslike shake. You look different. Thank you, I replied, though it had not been a compliment. I took the single chair facing them all, declining Michael's offer to bring me coffee. I appreciate you all coming. As if we had a choice, Kimberly said, attempting a lightness her brittle smile could not support. My daughter. Still beautiful. Still poised. But thinner now, with shadows under her eyes that makeup could not quite conceal. Motherhood had not softened her, as I had once hoped it might. You have always had choices, Kimberly, I replied calmly. We all have. And we all live with the consequences of those choices. The room fell silent. I opened my handbag and removed 5 identical envelopes, each bearing a name in my precise handwriting. I placed them on the coffee table. 6 months ago, at Kimberly's wedding, I was publicly accused of theft. I began without emotion. I was humiliated, dismissed, and told I was no longer family. Since then, I have had ample time to reflect on what family truly means, and what it does not. Mom, please, Emma interjected. We have apologized 100 times. How long are you going to punish us? This is not punishment, Emma. It is consequence. I gestured toward the envelopes. Please take the one with your name. They exchanged wary glances before reaching for their respective envelopes. Only Michael knew what they contained, and even he looked apprehensive. Inside you will find legal documents prepared by my attorney, I explained as they opened the envelopes. I've sold my beauty boutique. After 27 years, I received an offer I could not refuse from a luxury chain looking to expand their West Coast presence. You sold the business. Richard looked up sharply. Without consulting any of us. Yes, I said simply. Just as you sold your partnership shares 15 years ago without consulting me. The difference is I am informing you of the outcome. But why? Emma asked, scanning the documents with confusion. You loved that place. I did, I agreed. But it served its purpose. It put food on our table when your father left. It paid for your college educations. It funded Kimberly's wedding. And now it is funding my future. What future? Kimberly asked, her voice small. My future in Provence, I replied. I have purchased a small villa near Aix. I leave next month. The shock on their faces would have been comical under different circumstances. France. Richard spluttered. You cannot just move to France. Actually, I can. My visa is approved. My property secured. And my French is improving daily. But what about us? Emma gestured vaguely to include her siblings. That is the second part of what is in your envelopes. I continued calmly. You will note I have updated my will and trust documents. The proceeds from the sale of my business, and eventually my Oakland home, will be placed in a trust with Michael as the sole trustee. Kimberly's head snapped up. Michael. Why only Michael? Because Michael was the only one who did not accuse me of being a thief, I replied without inflection. The only one who did not question my character or my love. This is about the earrings. Jason spoke for the first time, incredulous. You are disinheriting your daughters over a misunderstanding. No, Jason. I am responding to a revelation. I met his gaze steadily. The earrings incident did not create the problem. It merely exposed it. My daughters showed me exactly who they believe I am. I am simply taking them at their word. Kimberly's voice broke as she clutched the papers. Please do not do this. We made a terrible mistake. But we love you. I know you believe that is true, I said, not unkindly. But love without respect is not love at all. It is habit. It is obligation. It is many things. But it is not love. So that is it. Emma was crying now. You are just gone. Forever. Not forever, I corrected her. But on new terms. My terms. I stood, signaling the end of the meeting. You are all adults now. You have built lives without me at the center of them. Now I am building a life without you at the center of it. The protests came then, as I had known they would. Tears from Emma. Anger from Kimberly. Practical objections from Richard. I weathered them in silence, unmoved. Only when the storm had passed did I speak again. You accused me of theft once, I said quietly. In a way, you were right. I am taking something back. My life. My dignity. My power to define who and what I am. I walked to the door, Michael following silently behind me. I paused on the threshold, turning back one last time to the family I had built, and lost, and now released. Goodbye, I said simply. Be well. Outside, the spring sunshine felt like a benediction. Michael touched my arm gently as we reached the car. Are you okay? Yes. I am free, I replied. And for the first time in decades, it was nothing but the truth. As we drove away, I did not look back at the house, at the life I was leaving behind. The road ahead stretched clear and bright, leading toward a horizon I had chosen for myself. There would be no forgiveness. Not in the way they wanted it. A neat absolution that erased consequences and restored the comfortable dynamic they had taken for granted. Instead, there would be this clean break, fresh start, a life reclaimed from the ashes of betrayal. And if there was a certain satisfaction in knowing they would feel the loss of me now, truly feel it, perhaps for the first time, well, that was not vengeance. That was justice, and in the end, Grace chose self-respect over reconciliation. She walked away not in anger, but with clarity. Sometimes the deepest betrayal comes not from strangers, but from the people we love most. And when that trust is broken, walking away becomes the only path to healing. This was not the end of a family. It was the beginning of a woman finally choosing herself. If this story moved you, do not forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us where you are watching from and whether you believe forgiveness has limits. New stories every week, only here.